All right. Good morning, Zion Adar. Wish Rabbeina's birthday. Maybe that's why people aren't here. They're out celebrating. We'll see. Okay, Hayom Yom, page 26. It is imperative that every Jew know that he is an emissary of the Master of all, that he's charged with implementing, wherever he may be, God's will and intention in creating the universe, namely, to illuminate the world with the light of Torah and Avodah. This is done through observing practical mitzvahs and implanting in oneself fine character traits. Straightforward, right? Now, we're going to have to keep that in mind when we learn today's Tanya, because the Alter Rebbe has some interesting adjectives to talk about the body, negative. But of course, one can't do what you've just said, observe practical mitzvahs, without the body. The body is like the temple, holding the Holy of Holies. However, the body doesn't necessarily present itself that way naturally, quote naturally. It has to be trained to know what it really is. And before it's trained, so here we have some negative expressions about the body, and we're going to talk, it's Likutei Torah, Likutei Amorim, we're in the middle here of Perek Lamed Aleph, actually almost by the end, on page Mem in that edition of the Tanya, and in Lessons in Tanya, we are at the top of page 414, right at the top of 414. It's surprising that more people aren't here. I'm wondering if people are having some technical difficulties. No, maybe other people's sense of time and mine are different. Okay, so we will start today. As I said, for those who just glommed on here, Hayom Yom, which you just did, said that that's incumbent upon every Jew to realize that the purpose in one's creation is to bring godliness into the world through the performance of Torah and mitzvahs. And I just said that, of course, the only way you can do that is with the hands, feet, and limbs and organs and brain that is in your body. And we keep that in mind. I want us to keep that in mind as we hear today with the way in which the Alter Rebbe describes the body. And maybe at the end we can have some discussion about the dissonance between the Yom Yom and the Tanya. Okay, so we are, where are we here? The bottom of page Mem. Okay, so what we've spoken about is that, and we'll start with this, the body in its, quote, natural state encompasses, the Nefesh HaBahamis encompasses the Nefesh Elokis and throws a darkness over the Nefesh Elokis. The physical world masks godliness. The bodily container masks the Elokus, right? And our avodah is to break through that, to teach the animal soul about where it knows that it came from Kedusha, but it's been sent on a mission from Hashem to play the role of hiding over Kedusha. We have to, I don't know if re-educate it to its true reality. The Nefesh Elokis needs no education. It just needs revelation. The Nefesh HaBahamis, the animal soul, and the body needs education about what it's been designed to do and how it can do what it's been designed to do. So, B'zeis tia avodosa kol yomav. And this what I just talked about, educating, training, giving the body and the Nefesh HaBahamis insight as to what the appropriate, what its godly purpose is, as we said in the Hayom Yom, to educate that. This is the avodah, this is the service, this is the work of a person, kol yomav, all days. And since the whole purpose is to reveal godliness, the only way that you're going to do this, or that I'm going to do, or any of us are going to do this, it can't be by by copping out, so to speak, to the natural tendency of the body to stay in bed and to, not get up with energy. The energy that we're going to need for this is the energy of Simcha, because Simcha poiretzes kol hagedor. Simcha breaks through all the boundaries. So this is the avoida. The avoida we have is to ivdu es Hashem b'simcha, is to work at serving Hashem with Simcha. Kol yom of all of our days, but Simcha Rabba, with a great Simcha. And this Simcha, Simchas HaNefesh, this is the Simcha of the soul, the godly soul, B'tseisa meguf hametoyev, when the godly soul blasts through the darkness and literally the loathsomeness of the concealment of the body. V'shava el beis aviha, and brings her back. The godly soul brings herself back. In other words, breaks through the bars of the imprisonment of the negativity of the body and the nefesh elokis to the house of her father. That's a metaphor. That the her is the nefesh elokis, and the house of the father is from where the nefesh elokis was emanated in the first place. And the avoida is to bring the nefesh elokis to take its deep levels of consciousness, awareness of that into the body, and wake up the body to become the servant that it needs to be in order to do Torah and mitzvahs. As the nefesh elokis was in its youth, before it was put down here in the body. When is the time to do this? The time to do this is the time of learning Torah, avoda, and davening. As our sages have said, all days, and you could read it either every day or the entirety of a day, kol yomav, the entirety of a day or all days, a person should be b'tshuva. Now, what's tshuva? We don't mean here necessarily, and not really mainly, regret over sins, and we're thinking about how despicable I am, God forbid. It means bringing the nefesh elokis back to its ability to, which has only been clouded over, to shine and shed light in the chamber of the house, in its chamber, which is now the body and the nefesh habahamis. And there's no greater simcha than this. And the mashal is katseis mehagal. It's like bringing somebody out of exile, the shivya, and captivity. Nefesh elokis has been in a state of, it's sitting in a cell, as he's about to say. Kemashal ben Melech, the nefesh elokis we're likening here like the son of a king, the child of a king, right? It's a chelek elakah. God is the king, and the nefesh elokis is a chelek, a part of that. So that, let's give a mashal, a son of a king, Jehoiah b'shivya, that was in captivity. The tuchen, and is down in the lower levels, the beis hasurim is down there in the lower levels of the beis hasurim, which is a prison, a house of difficulty, beis hasurim, the prison. Umenavel be'ashpa, and the nefesh elokis has been placed in that place, which is called menavel be'ashpa, a place which is despicable with filth. And our avoida is to free it, that it should return to, again, it's never ever been removed, actually, it's just been covered over, but bring its awareness, return its awareness to what it really is, that it's really always in the house of the Father, who is the Melech. Even though the body will remain in its disgustedness, its loathsomeness, is written in the Zohar, the unrectified body, that is the body which has not come to awareness of what its true mission is, which is to be a chariot for the nefesh elokis, a stallion taking the nefesh elokis to a place that it can't go on its own. Before that, it's called in the Zohar, Mishka dechivya, the skin of the snake, because it's all drawn, quote, naturally to stay in bed, not get up, not be energized, etc., etc. So the Zohar calls it at that state the mishka de chivya, the skin of the snake. Because, and as long as the essence and the very being of the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul, hasn't been transformed, l'toyev, the kolaba kedusha, the goodness to be included in kedusha. Nevertheless, even though that may be one state. I'm using this metaphor of not wanting to go to bed, get out of bed, excuse me, because it's something that I can relate to, maybe others as well. The sense that, the challenges, of the day, are they real? Am I looking at them as opportunities that cause me to jump out of bed? Not necessarily. It's so there is a state where this has to be worked on. And this work that I'm talking about here is to utilize the power of Simcha that we have within us, realization of the incredible gift that we've been given to bring godliness into the world with this body, with this physical body, empowered by the Nefesh Elokis, and bring oneself to a state of at least thinking about how wonderful that is and be in a state of Simcha. And it should bring one to an even greater Simcha, mehaguf hanivza, because it's taking that pure physicality, which is drawn naturally into despicability, meaning negativity, away from God, coldness, depression, etc., and turning it around. And make a firm determination in one's mind, the brain should rule over the heart, not to be bothered by, not to be mixed in with that negativity, and not let that negative draw of the purely physical interfere or confuse, muddy up your simcha, the simchas nefesh, the atzfun, with the sadness of the goof, with the downness of the body. Doing what we just said, overpowering the negative drag of the physical, just in the sense that the physical, at least that the physical covers over the godly, overcoming that covering, right? That's called Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's called going out of Egypt. We've learned that Mitzrayim is a lashon which is Egypt, but it's Metzorim, which means limitations. We have a power to go out of the limitations of the physical per se, and actually utilize the physical for the godly. That's called going out of Egypt. Shnema, as it says about the going of Egypt. Now we're back in Chumash, in Shmos. When we did go out of the physical Egypt, it says, Ki borach ha'am. It says that the nation fled from there. So the Alter Rebbe asks sort of a question, why do we have to flee from there? It's a wondrous thing. Why did we have to flee? Paro already said, you can go. He was like overwhelmed finally with the plagues. He said, go. He didn't need to send us out. He kicked us out, right? He said, leave here. So why does it say that we fled? We just could have walked out leisurely. We were walking out with permission. So this is an indication. You have to look a little deeper. Why is that? We were fleeing not from the paroi, the physical paroi. He let us out. We were fleeing from something else. We were fleeing we were fleeing from ourselves, so to speak. We were fleeing from the negativity, the ingrainedness, and the absorption that we had in the klippas of Mitzrayim, which had penetrated us to the extent that we were indulging in, we as a people, not individually, there were many who weren't, indulging in all the negativity of Mitzrayim, from the physical depravity. Egypt is called the Erevis Ha'olam, the naked place of the world. The physical depravity, the moral depravity, as well as the ideological and ultimately spiritual depravity of the Avodah Zorah. That had overcome us from those 210 years that we were in Egypt. And we were fleeing from that. That's what we were running from. that negativity which is in the left side of the heart. Because the Gemara in Shabbos says that the venom, this is the zuhama, is a venom, the venom of negativity had not left us until Matan Torah, until the time the Torah was given. That's why there was all the convoluted wanderings. When we've spoken about many places, to get from Mitzrayim to Mount Sinai is it didn't take us nearly 40 years. Hashem sent us in that circuitous route in order for this process to occur, that we would unburden ourselves from the negativity and the dross and the depravity of the affairs of the physical and the Avodah Zorah ideological in Mitzrayim until Matan Torah. So in fact, our fleeing from there was, I don't want to spend another moment in that depraved situation, because my whole desire was, and the desire, Lotzeis Nafshim, is to take our soul, my godly soul, out of Galus. And the Sitracha, which is the Tumas Mitzrayim, which is all the depravity, impurity of Mitzrayim. And to cling to Hashem Yisborah, who could receive, as it's written in the pasuk in Yirmiyah. It says, Hashem oizi umauzi umanoisi. Hashem is my strength, my fortress, my refuge, b'yem sora, in the time of my tsar, in the time of my difficulty. Misgabe umanoismi. He lifts me up from my and he is my refuge. Behumanoisli. Again, this is a repetition of the same words that appear many times. Therefore, la'osid, in the future, Kishiyavir Hashem ruach hatuma min ha'oretz, when Hashem will take away the spirit of impurity which from the earth. It's written about that. You won't have to flee. You won't have to run away from that. Because Hashem will lead in front of you. Godliness will be apparent and in front of you, and there will no longer be the need to do the avoider that we've been talking about, to break the boundary, break the imprisonment of the negativity, the natural negativity of the animal soul and the body, which is more naturally to bring one down into the physical and obscure the spiritual. That's it. So, in other words, if we hadn't done this in context of the Hayom Yom, there's a lot on this page, and I've mentioned this before, which can lead people to understand that the body is a piece of dirt. But you constantly have to keep it. When you hear those languages, as you've heard on this page, disgusting, novel, sunken, etc., you have to keep in mind that that's the natural state. The body is, yes, the body and the Nefesh Bahamas is designed to cover over the Nefesh Elokis. But the Nefesh Elokis is designed to break through that and allow the body and the animal. There's an expression from, I don't remember which Gemara, expresses, you get a lot of produce from harnessing the ox to the grist mill. In other words, the animal is made to be productive and in our service of Elokus, in our service of godliness. Its natural state is not that way, but it's meant to be. And when it unites with the godly soul, or better put, when the godly soul, through our Simcha Shel Mitzvah and our Simcha of looking at what we were really created for, breaks through, then there's a union of the master, which is the godly soul, and the horse or the chariot, and they work as a unity together. And the chariot or the horse, whichever way you want to use, can take that godly soul to extreme heights. All right, any questions on this? Okay, so what's the bechein, guys? Small group today. What's the bechein? So what? What's our Beinoni moment? What are we going to do with this? You guys get off the hook easily if you keep quiet, and then I have to say. What are you going to do with this? One thing. I'll say my one thing. It's the one thing I do every day. Battle for a second with my Yetzer Hara to get myself out of bed. I like to sleep. And the heaviness of the Nefesh Bahamis weighs heavy. And I have to put a few thoughts in my brain about what I'm getting up for. Thanking first of all, I thank God that I've been reborn. These things in my life, I have to make conscious because my reluctance to get out of bed is the natural. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that every day, and I'm certainly going to do it today because it's fresh in my mind. How about somebody else? Okay, you guys are so shy. All right, then this is it. We'll see you tomorrow. Happy birthday, Moshe Rabbeinu. Happy birthday to the Moshe Rabbeinu Bekirboy. Our Rebbe always says, the Moshe Rabbeinu in each and every one of us. The spark of godliness and the chosenness that Moshe was to lead the people, that we've all been chosen to lead ourselves and our everyday life to a greater awareness of Hashem. Happy birthday.